Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Aldiss Park. We're here for Norwich City's first pre-season friendly of the 2022-23 season here at Dereham Town. Just a short trip up the A47 for Norwich City. If we move out of the way, you might be able to see a few Norwich City players who have been out there looking at the pitch, but you can see a few staff members out there. I can see Craig Shakespeare being one in the middle of the pitch. I can see Liam Bramley as well, Steve Weaver making his way across. So we have seen a few Norwich City players, and Paddy, the team is out. So I think you had it in front of you. So I'll let you read it because it's a mix probably of first teamers and of under 23s and youth players as well.
Yeah, probably befitting the first hit out of the summer. Yeah, I'll just reel through it if you've not already seen it on City's social channels. It's starting 11 of Gunn, Mumba, Warner, Gibson, McCallum, Gibbs, McLean, Cantwell, back on home turf. Yeah. Springett, Omatoy, Hugel. I'll reel off the subs. We've got tonight McGovern, Zimmerman, Tompkinson, other centre-back, Saxon Early, development full-back, Regan Riley, Sorensen, Lee Malou, Flynn Clark, very highly rated central midfielder from the development squad, Kieran Dowell, Johnny Rowe, and Tom Dixon-Peters. So immediately I'm thinking 4-3-3 there, Connor. You going on?
Yeah, I think so. And I suppose let's get straight on to him because Todd Cantwell's probably the interesting one, right? I mean, he's obviously from Dereham, so this is a homecoming of sorts for him. Obviously came through the Norwich City Academy as well, but spent the second half of last season on loan at Bournemouth. There was an option in that it could have been made permanent. Bournemouth decided not to do that. I think when he departed in January, there was probably some debate as to whether we'd see him in yellow and green against Lane, or no, not a competitive fixture. Yeah. This is interesting that he's included in the opening pre-season friendly, albeit if his future remains somewhat unclear at the moment.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's nice to see, really, particularly with the Dereham connection. I'm sure he'll have some family and friends here. And in terms of the what next, well, we'd like to think we'll have a chat with Dean Smith after the game, and that's certainly one of the questions we'll put to him. You know, where is Todd Cantwell now? Because quite clearly, as you mapped out there, Connor, when they sanctioned that January loan move with an option to buy, essentially that's Dean Smith to me and Norwich City saying we don't see this guy as part of the future here. Because it didn't happen in terms of Bournemouth taking up the option. Contractually, Norwich have exercised the 12 months they had, as they would do, to protect themselves. And he's still a Norwich City player, and we're here at the start of pre-season and he's involved. So, you know, it will be more, I think the most interesting aspect for me is not so much that we've seen Todd start tonight, because you can tell by the lineup it's a very much mix and match, fitness dictated opening set of players involved tonight. But, you know, if Dean Smith does say that, you know, almost hypothetically that it's a clean sheet and we go again and Todd has the potential to force his way in, then that'll be a very interesting development, because it did feel at the point he left for Bournemouth, that was probably the last time we'd see him in a Norwich shirt. Yeah,
and it was pre-season 2019, wasn't it, where he performed really well and managed to get himself in Daniel Farke's thoughts ahead of the Premier League season. So you never quite know what a really positive pre-season can do. It may just shift the narrative enough to convince Dean Smith to give him a look. That's a new position for him in terms of Norwich City terms. He did play there for Bournemouth. I think Scott Parker spoke about him operating in one of those kind of number 8 positions in a 4-3-3, and Todd spoke about how that was a new position and how much he enjoyed it. So that's going to be interesting tonight. I mean, Jordan Hugel, another really interesting one. I suppose he's probably in there because of the lack of natural striking options. Obviously, a part of the friendly this evening is that Norwich have a lot of players away who obviously participated in last month's Nations League games. So no Timu Puki, no Tim Krul, no Danel Sinani, no Przemysław Poeta, Dimitri Shinoulis, Christoph Solis. We could Grant Hanley, we could go on. Coupled with obviously Andrew Mabamedele and Adam Baida, who are coming back from injury. I think Dean Smith did set the target for the second week of pre-season for them, but a really good opportunity for some of the young lads. Liam Gibbs, for example, was on the periphery, got on the bench a few times last season, obviously formerly of Ipswich Town as well. It's a really good opportunity for them as well to kind of stake their claim, whether that be for Dean Smith's starting 11 or for a potential EFL loan elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we know it's essentially a fitness exercise tonight. We won't, by any manner of means, draw any too hard or fast conclusions, but what you mentioned about Cantwell there, Connor, was very pertinent. That I think the start of that pre-season, nobody had him in the lineup for Liverpool as it was on the opening night of the Premier League season. Players can force their way in with a strong pre-season. Dean Smith is looking for players to step forward now and show that they want to be part of it. Omatoy's the interesting one for me. You know, he was one who
off the wing as well.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking forward to seeing him actually tonight. Because it looked like there was a player there at development level. He got himself just into the fringes of Daniel Farker's thinking. Then they felt probably his development alone would work, and it didn't quite happen. I think he had 2 or 3 lower league loans, didn't really set the world alight, and he probably comes back with a point to prove. And the fact he's in the 11 tonight, that suggests that in the very early parts of pre-season, he probably has caught Dean Smith's eye, because I don't think he's one necessarily you would have felt would get a game ahead of a Johnny Rowe or a Kieran Dowell. So, yeah, I mean, that is an interesting mix for me, the midfield, Gibbs, McLean, Cantwell, you know, because I think there's a lot of talk about what is a Dean Smith Norwich City side look like in an ideal world. What's his philosophy? How does he want to control games, and particularly through the middle of the park? And you go back to those Villa sides, and it was a very similar setup. You know, you had McGinn, you had his name escaped, Hurahan in the early days, and the Brazilian lad, Douglas Luiz, yeah. And it had that drive, it had that energy, it had with McGinn, obviously.
Dynamic, wasn't it? It's got a dynamic.
That ability on the ball. Now, obviously, Gibbs is a very young man, but he clearly has something about him. And we know that Cantwell, in terms of creativity, McLean is that more solid figure in there. So that's, you know, albeit it's Dereham, albeit it's the first hit out, albeit we won't read too much into it, how that 3 in midfield works could tell us a lot about Dean Smith's thinking moving forward.
Yeah, and there's some interesting players in there as well, because even though, again, as Paddy says, the gap between these teams is enormous. So I think to draw any kind of hard and fast conclusions would be premature, certainly at this stage. But there are players in there. I'm looking at Angus Gunn, Barley Mumba, Sam McCallum, Jordan Hugel, as well, I suppose, who have an opportunity to maybe make a head start above players who are still on holiday, some who are injured as well. Obviously, Angus closed that gap dramatically between him and Tim Krul towards the end of the season. Sam McCallum, if he needs to stake his claim to stick around. So there's still players in that team who have plenty to play for even tonight, even though it probably is a fitness exercise for the most part.
Absolutely. I mean, McCallum's the one. Yeah, I think he has a really big opportunity to stake a game. Maybe not necessarily at the outset to sort of edge Dimi Yanulis aside, who does look like, barring any sort of twists and turns in the window between now and the end of September, or start of September, sorry, is going to be Norwich's Championship left back at the outset at least. But if Sam McCallum can really take a step forward in pre-season, then you've got the makings of a really intriguing battle, I think, between those two players. And likewise, Gunn and Krul. Although I think, you know, the sense was that maybe Gunn has now positioned himself, maybe allied to Tim Krul's form dipping towards the end of last season, that maybe it will be Tim Krul's come Cardiff on the opening day of the Championship season. That's to be determined, obviously. But at left back, yeah, that's an intriguing one, because, as we know, Dean Smith went, and Shakespeare went and watched Sam McCallum play for QPR on loan last season. That in itself would indicate that there's a player there they like, and a player that maybe they feel can't be part of it this season, albeit maybe at the outset playing second fiddle to Dimi Yanulis.
Yeah, and players on the bench as well. We'll just run through that list again. McGovern, Zimmerman, Tompkinson, Saxon Early, Regan Riley, Jacob Sorensen, Pierre-Lace Malou, Flynn Clark, Kieran Dow, Jonathan Rowe and Tom Dixon-Peters. I mean, there's players with plenty of narratives in there as well, young players. I'm looking particularly at Tompkinson, Regan Riley, who's someone that Norwich spent money on to sign from Bolton, wasn't it, at the time. So these are players who will hope to come on and play some role tonight. But it's going to be kind of I think the interesting thing is what you say about how the team looks and what it looks like, because I think there's going to be a big emphasis on that in pre-season, because throughout this whole debate with Dean Smith since he came over, it's what does the Dean Smith look like, a team look like? It's been, we'll wait for pre-season, wait for him to have an opportunity to embed his ideas and his playing philosophy. And obviously tonight that probably comes a bit too early, but like you said, there's probably a skeleton there of maybe what we can expect from a Dean Smith Norwich City team moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you spoke to the Dereham manager in the build-up, Gustafsson, and he made it clear that the reality is the gulf between these two sides, they expect to be doing a lot of shape work and a lot of work without the ball. So conversely, if Norwich can have a lot of the ball, do they have the guile? Do they have the shape, the cohesion, albeit early in pre-season? But, you know, some semblance, because there'll be a lot of games in the Championship, you would think, with this group of Norwich players, they will have a lot of the ball in games. So do they have that creative edge to be able to break teams down, to move teams around? And, yeah, you know, as I say, you know, we won't get too carried away if it's a handsome win for Norwich tonight, as you would expect it would be. but you'd like to see signs both individually and collectively of we can now start to see the germ of a Dean Smith Norwich City.
Lovely stuff. We're going to be, I'm going to be on the live blog this evening, pinken.com, the place to go. There's not going to be a live stream for this game. That's our understanding of it. A few Wi-Fi issues, I think, is basically the reason for that, which hopefully the live blog will stand up. I'm hoping that's the case. Obviously, a big night for Dereham Town as well in terms of getting revenue through their gates. I'm just looking behind me and you'll be able to see there's plenty of Norwich City fans around kind of all four corners, really. We're kind of stood in a stand that is pretty much full either side, and we better get back before our seats get pinched. But whether you're here or whether you're watching or following from afar, hopefully we can provide you with a decent service this evening on pinken.com. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you soon.